Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March episode of the Channel Marketing Academy, where this week we will be talking about how to stop making boring content. Nobody likes boring content in 2026. So this is why we have three speakers here today on to talk to us about their ways that they go around that and why it's so important in this day and age not to only have boring content that is notorious in our industry. Before we get going, just a couple of little housekeeping rules. A big thank you to our CMA founders, the ERP and CRM software blog, as well as the partner marketing group. They keep our lights on and keep these sessions free for everyone. So a big thank you to them. And also, I ask every month, and we're getting better. Ask questions. Don't be shy. Put them in the chat. We're here to learn from each other. And you can be crazy, come off mute, turn on your camera, if you want. We're always here to answer any questions. This hour is really for you guys as well, for all of you out there to learn from each other. And that's why our group is around. I have Anya and Michelle, as always, monitoring the chat because, doing two things at once is sometimes hard for me. So if you ask a question and I don't get to it right away, I'm sorry in advance. The two ladies will keep me straight and pipe up and ask the question when we have a break. So, with that being said, let's kick off today. If your content is starting to feel a little too copy and paste, you're probably not alone. That's why we're in a community, and that's why we're talking about it today. So we're gonna have some three marketers who are going to be talking about their storytelling abilities and why this shift from ordinary content into something people actually want to see. So let's have a little chat with them. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jackson, Eric, and Stephanie, who are going to be our panelists for today. Thank you very much for taking the time and moving flights for us. We really appreciate it. And Jackson, why don't you kick us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. First of all, my name is Jackson Hornaday. I'm the marketing manager at Volt Technologies. Volt Technologies specializes in implementing and supporting Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. So we really focus in the small to mid market. Our parent company, Sunrise Technologies, does the same thing. They just focus on the enterprise side. But my role as the marketing manager is to really lead the strategy and execution around really all things marketing, but specifically content marketing. And that's one of the things I think in today's landscape, as content, the quantity of content continues to pick up. I think this conversation is really valuable to have. So excited to chat with you guys.
Thank you for being here. And Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep. First, I'll echoes Jackson's comment about really happy to be here. Excited to talk marketing, dust off a piece of my brain. Get to go to the Wayback Machine and talk about things I've done in the past, as well as what I'm doing today. So, Erik Koenig, Vice President of Marketing with Hy-Tek Intralogistics, and Hy-Tek a little bit different. We work with channel partners to implement our software solution called Intro One, which is a warehouse management control and execution solution in warehouse automation space, primarily what we are considered as a systems integrator. So really, we're talking about the whole ecosystem of supply chain. For me, I set the strategy, build the go-to-market and storytelling objectives that the team executes and the sales team executes against. Historically, my career has been in branding and strategy, so I cut my teeth in CPG. So really building a brand, which for me is building a person, and how do you nurture and grow that person in the space is really for me at the heart of how you get through sort of that content bubble and create that engaging ecosystem that people can engage with.
Right. I can't wait to hear more about all of your branding experience and how you've adapted it to this brave new world. And last
Mhm.
but definitely not least, Stephanie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi there, I'm Stephanie Clark. I'm the founder of Elliott Clark Consulting. We're a Business Central focused firm. We work pretty exclusively with the smaller side manufacturers and really help them um, streamline their operations. We focus really heavily on the business process side of things, rather than features functions of the software. So we help them get the work done better. Um, I am excited to be here. Feel a little weird to be here because I don't consider myself a marketer or marketing person. As the founder of a smaller partner, you have to learn everything. And I've worked for many of the larger partners in the past, and I didn't focus on my own personal branding. And so now having to learn to market the company and brand myself as well. I've learned from lots of folks that are on this call. So, again, super happy to be here, and hopefully, I can share a few things that I've learned to do the hard way.
And I don't think you're giving her enough credit. I had the pleasure of being her paparazzi at a past event last year, and she is fab. So sit
Thank you.
back, relax, and enjoy the show. Like seriously, nothing to worry about here. And I think one of the reasons why we try to mix up our panelists too is so that not everyone is a big polished marketing machine either who's listening to the call today. So for us, it's great to have all of those different perspectives. So, marketers or not, you're more than welcome to share and ask questions. And if no question is a bad one, or you don't need to be a seasoned vet to ask something here. So, without further ado, let's kick this party off and start by what are the most common signs that you see that content can be boring? And do you have any data or how do you go about making sure that your first draft one isn't boring, or if it does come off boring, like how do you measure that it isn't just beyond clicks? So Jackson, why don't you kick us off? How do you manage unboring content?
Sure, absolutely. And I think, obviously the clicks does tell you a lot and, the traffic and engagement impressions, whatever you're looking at. But before you ever make the post and really speaking to more video kind of content or social media content, it is really, we like to take a step back first and think, what would we want to watch, personally? What would we, scroll past if we're on a social media platform? And just really thinking about it through that lens. And I think, that has helped us improve a lot. Instead of just making content that kind of just fills the gaps or, talks on the or is around the topic or hitting kind of the keywords that we want to really market towards. And I think for us, it's starting at the learning objective and making sure that we are adding value. Because obviously, a lot of people aren't really going to stick around to watch if it's, a lot of fluff and you're not actually, helping them solve their problem or helping educate them. So I think for us, it's starting at that learning objective and then working backwards on, what are those kind of chapters or what points do we want to hit in the video, and then finally, how can we make it the first couple seconds or the first minute really engaging and as well as what hook can really bring people to the piece of content. So I think again just working backwards from what you want the people to or your viewers to take from the video, and then how upfront in the video can you make it more engaging.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. We're the viewers too. If we find it boring, and using us as our baseline before you even get it out there is so important. And I think more than ever too, that notion of time lapse, like how many seconds versus minutes, what are your different criterias of when you see people drop off? I think those are good things to capture or to keep an eye out for, because when you're going through it, if after 3 seconds people are gone, well, what are you really getting out of it? So, great points. Stephanie, what about you? How do you unboring your content?
I love that Jackson said start with add value because that's as I kind of got started in this, I was sort of doing a lot of content like I saw other folks doing. We're not naming names here. And I just said this doesn't even feel like me. It doesn't feel like something I would say or something to that effect. So I think absolutely you want to add value, but I also think you want to make sure that it's relatable and that it is really coming from your voice. And so when I read, when I first go through a draft and I kind of take a look at it, I'm like, does this sound like something I would say to one of my clients in person? If it doesn't, I start over because it just doesn't make any sense to me. So that is really what I try to do is really push out there that this is how I talk and this is how I would talk to this person if we were face to face. As for tracking that, yeah, I really look at engagement. The feedback that I get really tells me whether something hit or not. And it's not just the feedback that I get. Anya's amazing. She always comments on my stuff and tells me how what a great story I tell and things like that. But I look for the people that I'm trying to sell to or that I'm trying to help and reach. Are they getting it? And so when I get feedback from my customers or something like that, then I know I'm on the right path.
No, no. And that relatable content, I think we get lost in jargon sometimes too, because you're like, I wouldn't actually say that to someone. And as an owner of a company, I do this sometimes. I'll turn around and I'll ask my boss, I'll be like, would you click on this or would you be like, oh, Tanya, come on? And I think just turning around and looking internally at who's around you and if it's relatable is so important. And yeah, we want to sound like ourselves. Like if because when someone picks up the phone and finally calls us, and it's not like what they've been hearing, that's super important too to keep in mind. So we already have a question. I think this is a record for the CMA Academy. So what is your ideal length on LinkedIn versus YouTube for a video? So is there anything that you're looking at when you're doing more educational or more like first click stuff? Is there anything specific there that you look for? Or we can have a think and we can get back to it later if
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not sure.
I'm happy to jump in here. I think I look at LinkedIn and YouTube as collaborative when you think about video. So LinkedIn 90 to 120 seconds, really about, and it can do two things. One, it can answer a simple one question, and that's really sort of the time length that you'll get people's eyes. And I think from a YouTube, but also, from there, driving towards YouTube saying, we'll answer this question more in depth and three more, click over to our YouTube channel to do something like that. And I think even to hop back a little bit on the earlier conversation, when I think of content, I think of it in two ways. One, is it coming from your brand and driven from the values of the organization? It's really about how do you make it relatable and believable as it's coming from your brand. Therefore, it's coming from your people, because ultimately what you really want is you don't want one voice, two voice, three voices. You want the entire organization as a voice speaking to what the values of the organization can deliver for a customer. The other thing too is, as we pivot in how search is done, one of the things that I've challenged my team on, and it's something that I do on a regular basis, is I start asking AI questions, around your industry or around the target market that you're trying to hit, and to work at getting the language that a customer might be asking that question. Because as you build content, if you answer the question, the reward goes up. And if you watch how Google has repositioned itself, and really as the chat engines continue to flip the narrative on how they do search, that's been one valuable tool that I've really gotten my team used to using. Just start thinking about, we've got a great idea, it's coming from the sales team, but let's now start to frame it in what questions are we seeing out there in AI, so that we can hit that question and frame it in a way that people are used to seeing or asking that.
No, it's so important that we answer the questions that people are asking and
Mhm.
because people are going to AI first, they're doing their homework before coming in, having that specific question answered is
Mhm.
what makes content interesting. Like it's not all just about being fun, it's about does it have that educational balance behind it as well? And I think how to have your entire company with the same voice, I would be very interested in like hosting that session in the future because I think that's a struggle for a lot of us out there still. So
It's
good
hard. Always
kudos to
hard
you
to
guys.
shepherd cats. Is always hard.
Great. Thank you. And keep those questions coming. I heart the questions. I don't know about the panelists, but you know, keep them coming, please. For our next question is, when did you decide to make the switch between having, regular content to being a little more interesting and creative? And did you have to put up guardrails? Did you have to make sure that it wasn't too crazy? Or how did you find that balance between not being clickbaity and being educational? So, Stephanie, let me start with you.
Guardrails, what are those? You clearly haven't read my ERP Gone Wild.
Well, so
Uh,
I said if you had guardrails, if you don't,
there are guardrails, of course. But you want to make sure that like from well, a couple parts of your question. So when I first started doing this, I already mentioned I started kind of trying to do what other folks were doing out there in the market. And again, it just didn't fit me and my voice and how I come at things a little very direct, and I want a different spin on it. Um, but at the same time, I want it to be meaningful. So I do try to tell stories. And those stories help it to be a little bit more relatable. It helps people go, oh, I've had that happen to me, and those kind of things. So that's the direction that I really have strived to go towards. Yeah, I do put some guardrails, but I do want it a little bit, are you kidding me kind of thing, because that does get attention and it's real life.
Mhm.
And so writing about real life is sometimes not it's a little bit messy at times. So that's what I try to do.
And I think that's fab. And your brand is relating like what you see is what you get. Like if you don't want direct, I ain't the girl for you. So I think that's important too, that when you're doing your content, that you're honest with your brand and that's going to come through first as well. So um I I say keep going because, well, maybe I'm a little too honest and direct myself. So that's why we probably get along.
I can't be
Uh,
different. I'm too old to change now. So
don't. And what about you, Jackson? Do you guys have some guardrails that you've put up, or you already talked about that balance of educational, so can you walk us through it a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main guardrails we really stick to is our key like handful of content pillars. So just always making sure that our content is about those core pillars, whether that's digital transformation, AI, ERP, just news and Microsoft, things like that. And being too crazy is definitely something that we think about because we definitely try to push the boundaries in some ways, but also understanding like this is not B2C. I mean, it is, you do need to be very mindful of, the way that you position your brand and a lot of that messaging. But I think the best way to kind of push the barrier and break through a lot of those noise is with a personal brand. So that is definitely something that we try to run in parallel is both our company's brand and thinking about it as more of educational and a lot of the platforms being more bottom of the funnel. And then our personal brand, who our president does a great job at really pushing his personal brand and something we help him with. But they're able to be a lot more personable and I think a great way to be personable is to talk about failures or problems in the past. And I think a lot of people kind of shy away from talking about times they failed, but I think you can still position yourself as an expert if you talk about the solution that came from it and how you solved that problem. And I think showing that experience, really shows, that you're an expert. Um, and then I think with just the clickbait and educational piece of the question, I think, obviously the hook and getting someone to actually click on your content, whether it's a blog, a video, or even, something like an email, you're thinking about that subject line or whatever the title is going to be. I think obviously, trying to put together an engaging, title or hook is important, but I think where you lose a lot of people and where your audience can get frustrated or maybe the engagement is not what you wanted even though you got a lot of people to click on your video, your or your blog, your email or whatever is whenever it's not transparent on what the content's actually about. So I think that goes back to that honesty piece and just making sure that even if it is a kind of a clickbait style hook that it's still very transparent into the learning objective or whatever the piece of content's actually about.
I think that's the theme that we've seen so far for 2026 in general is this idea of you got to speak your truth, you got to be truthful, because in this day and age, it'll come out sooner or later that you can't hide that forever. And that part of being relatable, like the both you and Stephanie talked about, it's so messy, there's failures. This is not people's first rodeo when it comes to implementing ERP anymore. And if there isn't a part where it gets a little crunchy or if it's too smooth sailing, they'll be like, what's the catch? And I think by being upfront and honest about that, that it's like a great marriage. You have to be open and honest from the beginning, and you go take it or leave it. But this is what's going to happen. So I think that honesty and truthfulness is what makes things relatable and interesting in this time. So yes, keep doing that. So all of us have a lot of personality on this call already, but you guys have also talked about how to keep your brand voice without going off brand because there, there's different people. Some organizations, it's one person that's really highlighted, and others where it's bringing that group voice together. So, how do you coach teams to stay consistent, Eric? I'm coming over to you because you kind of segued with that before on how do you make sure that you show personality without maybe overshadowing on a personal personality and really focusing on the brand.
Yeah, from a brand perspective, we are positioned as a trusted advisor. When we think about the conversations that we're going to have with customers, it is always from this position of authentic, down to earth, believable advice. And so, for us, it's been the development of messaging guidelines, everything from, here is an elevator pitch from the umbrella brand, Hy-Tek Intralogistics. Here is a elevator pitch from our software team, from our consulting team, from our robotics and automation team. They all tie together, but they're all speaking a little bit of a different slice of what is a trusted advisor and what does that mean. You know, being consistent in how you develop assets for people, how you write emails, because we go so far as to we load Salesforce up with email templates that the sales teams can use and sort of say, here are the key messages. You have guidance to tweak it so it sounds like you, but please do not walk away from the core messages. When we go back and we speak about the authenticity piece, because we all have an authenticity filter. We all believe about 1% of what is presented to us on a day-to-day basis anymore. When I think about the teams and their voices and their personal brands, it really starts to think about what channel are they pushing to? Are they in Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Are they on X? Are they on LinkedIn? And so what we do with our teams is we really coach them on LinkedIn. Think about sounding like this. Facebook, you can sound like this, because the biggest mind shift people have to think about from a content perspective is, yeah, this is your personal sort of social platform, but guess what? They will figure out where you are. And, for better or for worse, it will have an impact. So really, we coach through messaging guidelines is our strongest tool to keep people aligned. But we also I encourage creativity across the organization. I will listen to every idea, no matter how crazy it is, because I think there are those moments inside of that you can translate into something that really resonates with people, because life is messy. You do get into those conversations where this is where I fail and this is what I learned from it. Now, that may not be a good conversation coming from the brand, but having it come from you and knowing that your brand supports you as an employee is really one of those connective tissue points that makes the brand valuable to people. So I think that's for me, that is the big piece that I really always coach the teams on, is that, hear your messages. You can make them sound like you, but please keep in mind what channel you're on, and, what message, tying it back to that trusted advisor role.
Yeah, I think we our worlds have blended a lot of between our professional and our personal lives. But at the same time, I think that's a great reminder that what I say on Facebook is not maybe what I would say on LinkedIn, even though the worlds will cross and they might find each other, but that messaging or delivery is very different. And being open with your other departments and other people, being like, hey, come see me, I'll be happy to help you. I think some people are just shy or imposter syndrome and say that I can't be that person, but they have personality plus and
Yeah.
need to get their voice out there. So I think that's good for all of us marketers out there, not to have a open door or chat, I guess now more policy of like, hey, just write to me and we'll be able to brainstorm together. So,
Yep.
great tips. And Jackson, what do you guys do to show your personality without going off brand too much?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Eric really hit the nail on the head there. I think, well, obviously, one of the things mentioned and going to continue to talk about is the personal brand. And I think that's something that obviously a lot of companies are doing now. Um, but keeping the messaging aligned across the board, like Eric mentioned about the messaging guidelines, I think is definitely important. And what we try to do, because we really try to push this with our sales and solution team members, and they're not focused on content all the time. So I think just kind of working behind the scenes for us to make sure that we're aiding them with topics, and whether that's creatives or and just trying to help aid the actual putting together the post, but then kind of leaving it up to them to do it in their own voice, with the guardrails of the messaging guidelines that have been put in place. And I think another thing that Eric mentioned that we've really prioritized, and I think is super important in today's landscape, is knowing that each platform is different, and what works on LinkedIn and may not work on YouTube and may not work on Twitter or Facebook. And so I think even the same topic, the way it's delivered, just understanding that it needs to be delivered a little bit differently on each platform.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also the fact that maybe not everyone is on that platform for the same reason. And when I'm consuming content on Instagram, I might be looking for something different than when I'm on LinkedIn or another one or the TikTok. I don't know. I'm not the TikToker here, but in case for those who are, we won't exclude them. So this is a time for our commercial break. I want to say a huge thank you to our CMA patrons. A thank you to your continued support from Doug, MSDW, Marketeeri, OMSI, Vicinity, UST Pay, and Partner Talks. Thank you for keeping our lights on and supporting this little community that could. It's thanks to patrons like yourselves that we can keep doing these and keep offering these sessions for free. So if you are considering, you have a couple of extra bucks lying around in your marketing budget, and please consider supporting our community. Go visit our patron page. And when you think about how much it costs to have everybody trained up, it would be a drop in the bucket. But that's the end of my shameless plug for today. Let's keep this going. But before I do, I forgot of another commercial break that was very important. Is with the ERP software blog. They have a new program out and they're releasing their Best of Partners series. So these are a list of highlighting the top partners and in a list format that is great for AI search. I think that is a hot topic for everyone these days. 4 lists have already been published, so go check them out. And don't miss out on your chance to being on one of these lists. Go see the ERP software blog, or, Anya's just up here in the chat, so you can poke her as well if you have any questions about how you can get involved in that program. So also my not so subtle plug to go check out last month's subject where we talked about AEO, and it's okay if you missed it, just go back and watch it. We're not judging or anything, but at least then you can hear about why these new lists are so important in your new marketing strategy. So back to our regularly scheduled program now.
Tanya, one other thing.
Yes.
Did you want to mention what's kind of happened at Directions?
Oh, I was leaving that for the end, but yes,
Okay.
we can talk about it
Then
now.
wait. Leave some
then
expectation.
Okay, yeah,
leave them an expectation.
I was like, I was trying to, spread the good word. So yes, but stay till the end because we have big news about the CMA Academy coming up. So that's my cliffhanger. Get ready, 15 minutes. Can you wait? Now back to our regularly scheduled program. When you have a good campaign and when something's vibing and doing well, how long do you let it run for? How do you repurpose content without it feeling like, didn't we just see this? Is there anything that you do? How long do you let things go for? Stephanie, do you have any hot ideas on this, or how do you guys do it internally?
I'm not sure if that's a hot idea. This is an area I absolutely struggle. And I've asked for lots of advice. The whole repurposing, I feel too repetitive, but we do sort of themes for the quarter. And so over that quarter, we kind of do look at what's working. We have our general campaign themes, and then we have specific topics inside of that. And we do look at what's working, and we kind of say, oh, that got a lot of attention here. So let's also push it out in another place, and those kind of things. And like you guys have said, shift up the message depending on what the channel is and those kind of things. If folks have better ideas on this, I'm wide open because this one's weird for me.
Oh, but I think it's weird for everyone, and that's why the topic is here, so that people talk about it. And I think it's just having that cadence. A lot of people are on the set it and forget it, like, it's running, let it go, let it ride. But that you have that quarterly check-in, I think is a great reminder for us that, oh yeah, like, okay, what's working, what's not, how do we tweak it? And I think sometimes we forget that just because we see it on the daily doesn't mean everybody else sees it on the daily. The number of times LinkedIn changes their algorithm on us and you're like, why am I seeing this 3 weeks later? Kills me every time. But I think that's a good reminder too, that we have to let it roll for at least 3 months before we see any type of whether it's hot or not. And what about you, Eric? How long do you usually keep a campaign rolling for?
Yeah, I think it really depends on what the objective of the campaign is. There's broad awareness. Those campaigns typically 3-6 months because you're really talking about the brand at a higher level, making sure that you're clearly putting out that digital handshake. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is why I'm right for you. That basic brand question. I think underneath that, a campaign that I've kept rolling now for probably almost a year now, because I started it last year, is really focusing on our consulting practice on and that advisory services that we offer. It really talks about the three different types of broad-based consulting activities that we do, and primarily a LinkedIn campaign, but it just keeps converting. It's generating leads. The leads it's consistent. They're nicely nurtured leads. You sort of got to bring them along, given our sales cycle and what we're trying to achieve. But we've learned things along the way as far as ad one on ops assessment converts better than ad three on network optimization. So you sort of tweak the wording a little bit. But I think if you're doing another more general, more of a like a demo driving campaign, or a campaign that we're starting to run is on our technology discovery center, where we have technology from like Exotech and High Robotics and Geek Plus in our innovation lab. It's really about how do you get your hands on this? How do you drive that? And then push it to, convert through registering for that piece of it. And then on top of that, it's, really leveraging your ICP and those 3 or 4 critical titles or personas that lie in there, which is another great use for AI is, hey, here is a core message. Please spin this out for VP of supply chain, head of IT, director of operations, because you're going to get some nuances in there that are really going to help drive the success of that campaign. And then you'll likely find one group attaches to it way better than the other 2 groups. Then you can just sort of move those 2 groups to another campaign, keep that main group performing in that key piece. So, my advice would really be, think about, what is the objective of the campaign? How do you want to slice the audience? Because content for authenticity also has to be personalized. You've really gotten to a point where through the technologies we have available to us, you can speak almost one-to-one. At least for our brand, it's one to few. But as you start to layer in those other channels, you get that sense of where you can go and what you can't go. But it really drives down to, can you personalize it? And if you personalize it, can you find those 1 or 2 key personas that really are driving the success of it? And then you can move other people into another type of campaign. So really, I would say anyone at any time should probably have 3 or 4 campaigns running, because you're going to put out that net to catch people in a really effective way.
Yeah, I think we are so hyper focused sometimes on having that one slam dunk campaign, but you're right. Let's go back to the basics of marketing 101, which is, okay, there's going to be ebbs and flows, and if this is performing, we'll double down, and if this isn't, we'll change it up. And I don't think being in this new age, it's still bottom line is, okay, this is still marketing 101, where you have to be looking at what you're doing, targeting, testing, and if it's still working, go cool. If not, okay, learn fast and fail fast and move on to the next. And I think the tweak is really the personality piece, where we didn't have that bandwidth before, but now with AI for sure, add in the prompt, this is my brand, and now take my message into 5 different things. It really makes our lives a little easier when it comes to writing out that content and keeping it interesting and exciting. So,
Yep.
All of you out there, let's not have that one grand slam. Let's have that, ebbs and flow thing going. So, I think that's a good segue into our next question, which is, what kind of signals do you look for, besides the classic vanity metrics? Is there anything else you look for to show that, hey, we should keep this story going? Or, okay, we did the first chapter. Now what does chapter 2 and 3 look like? Is there anything that you do around that to know whether this is working for you? Jackson, is there anything around your spidey sense or signals that you look for in your marketing campaigns?
Sure. I mean, I think specifically speaking to kind of organic and more social media content, one of the real things that we look at is going back to adding value and understanding are we truly adding value, and is the audience actually finding it useful, is just not taking things like likes and impressions and things like that. I think the main thing is, seeing, are people engaging in the comments? Are they asking questions? And I think, also, shares and bookmarks and things like that. Are people making an effort to spread it to, other people? They think they find it so valuable that they want to send it to their team member or to their, whoever else. And, same thing with like saving or bookmarking. Do they find it so valuable that they want to come back and look at it later? And I think that's also, the algorithms now as well are really moving away from things like likes. I mean, they push content for the content that brings more people to their platform and keeps, the existing people on the platform longer. So I think, one, it helps the algorithm, but also, gives you a good understanding, is your content actually providing value and resonating with the audience?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think we overlook bookmarking very often, but especially on LinkedIn, where sometimes you're like, oh, this is late, but oh, I need to read this tomorrow, or like when I have a fresh pair of eyes. I think we should all add bookmarking to our list when we're looking at those, those meatier pieces of content out there. So I will put that on my to-do list after this call. And what about you, Eric? You already
Yeah.
started talking about it. Do you have any other signals that you look for?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm old, so I don't necessarily save on LinkedIn, but I have a habit of like snapping pictures of things that I like and content that I like, and saving it to my phone so I can go back and find it or look at it later. The other thing beyond engagement on the social channels, given that we're driving towards personalization, the other piece that I really look at is intent opportunities. So we have platforms like Lead Forensics. We use like a platform like Apollo versus a Zoom Info. And what these platforms have gotten really good at is if you push content and you're pushing content at a select user group, it'll tell you if that company has hit your website. It'll tell you what pages they were on. It'll tell you how long they were on those pages. So, as much as I'm looking for engagement on social, I'm looking at if I'm sending an email about parts distribution into an automotive space, am I seeing that? Because that means they may not have liked it or done anything on social, but they came to my website, and that gives me an opportunity to have a conversation in the social sphere. But the other thing that the platforms have gotten really good at, and Apollo just released it last in the last month or so, is they've gotten to the point where you can get individuals. So you're not getting company anymore. You're getting, oh, it was Jackson from Colgate Palmolive that was on your website. Oh, he hits my ICP. Hey, sales team, here is your outreach. So it really becomes a cycle of, yeah, there's engagement, but it's how do you triangulate. So that's one place that I look, and again, comments. But the other thing too is, you know, organically, are people coming to your trade show booth and sort of saying, "Hey, I saw that," or is your sales team coming up to you and saying, "Hey, can you give me that message?" Because I'll get that a lot from a sales enablement. It's like, you said, you gave a great elevator pitch. Can I have it? And things like that. I think there's those types of signals that I'm really looking at, because to me those are revenue opportunities. You get, some of the social engagements are great, but I want revenue opportunities. So what can I give my sales team to go off and say, here's a nice lead-in opportunity for you to start a conversation with someone.
And we sometimes forget, like we do all the branding and the talking, but we have to remember also, and that's a good point, Eric, of okay, our brand extension is the sales team after on, are they going to be able to continue that conversation? And how are they, do they know what you said so that when they speak to them, that it stays fluid? It's not like, hey, I'm talking about X and then they lead with Y. So that fluidity between the two is super important as well. So I think, and then having it back as like also going like, hey, they said about this. Those are things that, you no LinkedIn algorithm can really tell you, or no Google Analytics report can really get the deep dive on. So yeah, talking to humans, crazy concept, but let's be like a little like old school here for a second. And don't feel bad, Eric. I also do a lot of shotting on my phone. So it's not just bookmarking, but I will be more considerate of marketers and bookmark from now on. Um, we have a couple extra minutes. So I was wondering if anyone had like a non-boring campaign that you wanted to share. Do you have any examples of stuff that you've done that you want to share with the class today? I can buy you some time. In a previous company, we used to, I was big into those buzz feeds, like which Disney princess are you? Ariel. But for me, that 5 question tip, it really worked out well for us of like, take those 5 questions and you have time to find out which Disney princess you are. Is this ERP right for you? And really just have those quick answers. And for us, it wasn't boring. It was just long enough and the quality was there. So I didn't, they wouldn't, I should have added a which Disney princess you think you are at the end, but I will leave that for the next one in the nurture. Does anyone else have any campaigns that you're willing to talk about or that stand out? I'm asking you guys cold come in. So.
Yeah, I can speak to one. In a past life, I worked for a parts aggregator, so a parts distributor in the commercial food service space, and we were going through an M&A where the number one and number two brands in the industry were merging because God bless private equity, but we're also very adversarial as two brands. I would sit there and say, for 5 years I was at war with them. We were, pushing each other's buttons, gotten
Frenemies.
gotten to the point where we were bidding on each other's key brands and got it up to $25 a click. We had to have the CEOs call a truce. But when we did merge, we created this combination campaign. So think about your favorite combinations: peanut butter and jelly, hamburgers and French fries, this and this. And, really it was done to signal to the industry, A, we're coming together, but we're coming together not as adversaries, but as those combinations of things that are truly better together. We had we had overlapping customer bases, but different customer bases. And, and we pushed it out through print, digital, video, trade shows, giveaways. And, I still get, and I haven't been with that organization now probably when did I leave? For 6 years now. And I'll still get it every so often when people ask me about that campaign. And it was fun. It had nothing really to do with the brand or branding. It was, can we create interesting visuals and break up here's a picture of equipment, here's a picture of this, here's a picture of this, but still keep it within the food service space in a way that was fun and engaging, and getting people to sort of say, hey, these are my favorite combinations. I like grape jelly versus, strawberry jelly and stuff like that. But just, it was just there to have fun.
Oh no, and it comes back to that relatable. Like everyone has a strong, I'm like, it's raspberry is the only right answer when it comes to with jelly you put with peanut butter. But I think anything that evokes that strong opinion and is relatable and that's easy to go forward with, I think that's a great parallel on, okay, like there's plenty of things that I'm sure we can come up with in the ERP space that are relatable and peanut butter and jelly-esque. And I'm apologizing for all of you on the West Coast who I'm talking about food a couple minutes before lunchtime. So, bon appetit. So I like to finish this session. I always like to finish these calls where I break out my crystal ball and I ask you guys as well to see what kind of trends do you see coming in the upcoming year. So Jackson, what does your crystal ball say for unboring content in 2026?
Yeah, I think obviously like we've mentioned throughout, you know, it's the toughest time right now to really break through the noise and create content that gets pushed to a lot of people. But I think the one thing that I've been harping on and it's been mentioned is creating the personal brand. And I think it's more important now than ever. Um, because it really creates, I think, a couple years ago, you saw the boom with podcasts, and I think a lot of the draw to podcasts was how organic and relatable a lot of them were. And I think personal brand kind of gives that same sort of feel. And then another thing that has really been picking up over the last couple years, and I see not going anywhere, is live content. So I mean, there's tons of people who like live stream and things like that right now. I don't really think that B2B companies and ERP companies are going to do live streams or anything like that. But I think, types of content like we're doing today, whether it's a live panel or webinar, I think it's just going to continue to be more important.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because not just because we're doing the session right now live, but also because uh, so much can be generated by AI. So people are searching for that. No, I want to see your lips move and I want to see real words come out of your mouth. So I think people will be searching for that balance of like, when can I sign up for something real and listen to more fabulous people like yourselves? Erik, what does your crystal ball say?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One, there is that drive towards personalization. We need a takeaway. What is it? And it's not just a call to action. It's what are you giving me that I can take away from this conversation? And, when I think about live experiences, you know, and or almost live experiences, people are wanting to see, touch, feel. And how do you translate that and break through the fourth wall on see, touch, feel? So one of the things that we're actually doing, we'll see it at Modex, is uh, live from the innovation lab. Where we're allowing customers to see what demos and what solutions look like with products similar to what they would be thinking about. But the other piece though too is I'm really interested in what AI can do at the top of the funnel. If you think about websites with chat bots on them, and they'll ask questions and they'll, prompt you to move you
Mm.
through. But the platforms that are starting to rise up, that was very Skynetty, but the platforms that are really piquing my interest are generating deliverables after the conversation. So you're in a chat conversation at the top of the funnel, and behind the scenes, it's building for you a 2, 3, 4 page takeaway that gets at what this company does based on the questions that you asked it. And here's, oh, by the way, here's something that you can take and give to other people in your organization, because you never know who it's going to hit. But it's really going to drive a meeting more than anything and push it a little bit further down the funnel faster. So like that to me is how we continue to build that personalization and do it faster, because everything's about faster. And the better you train those models, the better the content you have behind the scenes, So even if this content isn't seeing the light of day on your blog or in a presentation, it's being used to generate that first touch takeaway for that individual as if they were talking to you in the room. And so that to me is really where my eyes are focused on. Because like I said, I go back to the question that I'll get asked is, where's the revenue coming from? And say, these are the places it starts to build faster.
And I think that question is such a harder and harder question to answer, especially in the world of AEO, where they might have put that into Copilot and then went directly to your website, but you don't have that correlation. So if you can build those experiences, I think as marketers on how do we get that creativity to make it easier for them to share after, instead of, going to the Copilot first, they take that document and read it first. Well, they might ask Copilot to read it, but nevertheless, as long as it's in someone's inbox somewhere or chat box somewhere, I think that's a great way of looking at the future. And we'll love to have you back in a year to see if your crystal ball has how has evolved.
Yeah, if it is on my list of 2026 goals and objectives to have something implemented by 27. So we'll see what
Uh,
happens.
wait, I will be lurking in the background checking that out. And Stephanie, take us home. What does your crystal ball say?
I think you guys have said it. For me, Jackson kind of stole mine, but for me, it is really about we have so much AI out there, real people. I think there's going to be a premium on real people, real experiences. I think events will continue to be kind of hot because we missed each other through COVID, and we want that human interaction. So I just think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I think so too. That pendulum is swinging back to the we want to see faces and we want to see mouths move. So, thank you all for your time today. And now, as promised, we have some big news with the CMA Academy. We are actually doing a live session at Directions. So this will be our first time you're going to see, more than my shoulders up. You're going to see the whole version of Tanya, Anya, and Michelle. We're going to be live in person. So please, if you haven't signed up for Directions yet, North America, sign up because it's for marketers too now. There's a lot of great sessions that have been slated for that. Not just saying that because ours was selected, but because there is a great pre-marketing day as well, because I know a lot of us marketers, we are confined to a booth as of the first day, but there's a pre-day where there's going to be a lot of industry experts talking, a lot of people from this past CMA chats as well, and those in the room today. So please sign up for that, and hopefully you'll be there and you'll be able to come see our session. We are going to be talking about fact or fiction, marketing trends that you should know, or maybe some that you shouldn't. We'll be looking back at some of our past sessions and asking the audience, because it wouldn't be a real session if I didn't ask for questions throughout a 60-minute period. So I hope you guys, we will see you there. And if worst case, just come hang with your CMA posse. We love to see you in the flesh. So that is that. And then we also, right before Directions North America, we have our next session, which will be what's working and for marketers now in LinkedIn. So don't miss that, because that's kind of, the segue into what we started today, more on the execution side of it. So circle your calendars, April 16th, from 3 to 4 p.m. So looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you again, everyone. Have a fabulous day, and hopefully see you in the flesh in Orlando in 6 weeks. All right, bye now.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.